what she's doing, but it's very interesting because these are private institutions, and they could just say, well, I'm sorry, that's not acceptable. Just like in the US, we have this ability for people to get together and pump money into people's campaigns, but not disclose who they are. And this was a Supreme Court decision that was really a nightmare for all of us, and it continues to be. So it's similar, I think, in that way.
No, because that's exactly what she's doing, Andrea. She's looking into what political donations all these big benefactors, if we want to call them, of museums have done. So I think it is very much linked with the current administration in the States, and whether there is kind of like a film of conservatives that is covering the museums. Although we have seen from the museums themselves lately, after the elections in the States, I'm not going to say dissidents, because it's not really dissidents, but a kind of behavior that tries to go against the current administration. I also wanted to ask you about that, whether you feel that is in fact concrete reaction, or whether it's just, for the sake of it, in order for them to look democratic enough, if you will.
I think it's, museums basically, ever since I began my talk before you got here with Hans Hake, who was my professor, and of course Hake did this sort of survey of people who went to art galleries and museums back in 1973 or 72 even, and discovered kind of what we already know, which is that most people who go to museums in the art world tend to be either liberals or even maybe to the left of liberals. Very few are conservatives. So museums absolutely, in order to sort of be legitimate, are going to have to pay some attention to their constituency. And with groups like Gulf Labor and Gulf Occupy Museums, Working Artists for Greater Economy, and so on and so forth, putting pressure on those institutions, they're going to have to respond by doing something that shows they still are politically in their camp. I think in the book somewhere I talk about this, there's a kind of prog-servatism, progressive conservatism, because they can speak about these things, or LGBT rights, or things like that, very important things, but when it comes to actually changing the structure of the institution, say making the boards of directors more diverse, or getting rid of people like Larry Fink off the board, they're not going to do that. So yes, I think until we target that aspect of it, we don't succeed. We really just get gestures. And it's great to have the gestures, of course. No one wants to say, don't do that. Right now, the Museum of Modern Art has a vitrine set out with Art Workers Coalition material in it. And Art Workers Coalition invaded the museum many times in the 70s. So they had that material, but they kind of put it away in the archive. Now they bring it out. They also put work up by Syrian artists and other artists from the Middle East in their collection. Although this is great, but it doesn't get to the core aspect of the problem.
That was my kind of next thought, in the sense that many times in the cultural field, especially when it comes to socially and politically engaged practices, curatorial ones or artistic, and we have seen that here in Athens as well. You said gestures, they're just gestures. I call them empty gestures even.
Gestural art is an important part of, I love Jackson Pollock, so let's not be completely against the gesture.
No, absolutely. I'm just saying it's a bit of a conundrum and a cul-de-sac, if you want, in the sense that you do have a discourse, but how much active agency does art have to change? This is the question that we all face, but I think we are currently at a moment that the times are so hard that it's inevitable somehow for us to pick a field, a position, if you will. And I wanted to ask, because I'm not very familiar with the current situation of the art world in the United States. I haven't been for quite some time. Whether that is difficult within the realm of socially and politically engaged projects. And I was speaking with Nato Thompson a month ago. He was here. I mean, he was very kind of disheartened by the whole thing. So I just wanted your opinion, really.
Well, yeah, NATO and I go back a long way to Chicago, actually. It is disheartening. I mean, but I think the idea that artists are going to change the politics is probably naive. I don't think that's ever happened. I think artists